I just have to ask, man, after everything you've gone through, do you feel at all a sense of vindication, at least knowing that, the truth is finally coming out?
I think yes. The answer is yes. I do think that there were opportunities for the truth to begin to emerge a lot sooner than this. I mean, one of the really unfortunate things about January 6th is that, and all of the weaponization of the government that was taking place over the last, during the 4 Biden years, is that it really created a climate of fear and I think intimidation and even really isolation, I think, for a lot of people. A lot of people were afraid to associate with me, and a lot of people were afraid to even have people like me on to share our stories about what was going on, so I mean, it was a very sort of isolating experience, but I think that is one of the unfortunate things. And this is, by the way, why they do things like this is why all of this was happening. This was a coordinated attempt by our government to try to not only destroy Donald Trump, but to destroy the MAGA movement in general, and to also make conservatives afraid to go out and engage in activism, afraid to go out and start organizations, afraid to start movements, and afraid to associate with one another. And it goes far beyond just, charging people with crimes, I'm sure we're about to get into in this discussion. When you're just even under investigation, then that sends the message out to other people. Oh, they're looking at his emails. They're looking at his text messages. They're looking at his phone calls. Maybe we shouldn't email him. Maybe we shouldn't text him. They try to kind of fragment everybody and create this division because they want to make people afraid to be able to organize and come together and build with each other.
Well, that's exactly right. And you look at some of the names that were on this list, you look at the names of the J6ers, you look at the names of prominent J6ers like yourself who were and are, in leading such incredible movements all around the country. And obviously you and I have done events together in places as, far flung. We've done Florida, we've done Minnesota, Wisconsin, different things. And so it's they knew who they were targeting. It's very simple to me when I look at this. Anyone that they could build a case against, that's exactly who they went after. And then you could see, by the way, they were even tracking, is this person a political activist? Is this person a member of the media? Is this person tied to this? Is this person a lawyer? They didn't even care, right? They didn't even care. They just ran roughshod over all of their own standards, over their own guidelines, over their own practices, because this was a political witch hunt. And I was saying in the opening, and you and I were chatting during the break a little, this is like after the fall of the Berlin Wall, when the East German Stasi were finally disbanded, and then you, as a citizen of Germany who had lived through communism, could go and request your own surveillance file. And you could, there's this great movie, The Lives of Others, and the very last scene is the guy goes in and he's able to request his own file and find out that, oh wait, all these horrible things that were happening to him at that time in his life were because of the intel agencies screwing around with him, messing with his life. And as you just say, they isolate you, they create this sort of environment of fear, and they want you to feel atomized. And in fact, if you watch the movie Lives of Others, they were trying to drive political dissidents to suicide. And in fact, there are many cases of J6ers who did do, in fact, that. It's the very same thing, man.
Absolutely, 100%. And I'll tell you too, so the comment that you were just making about sort of like the far-reaching effort to destroy people. So first and foremost, I want to say, for any of your audience out there who doesn't know, I was raided by the FBI. I was thrown in jail. I was actually charged with more felony charges than most people who went inside the Capitol on January 6th. But just to be clear, I never entered the Capitol on January 6th. I didn't engage in any violence, vandalism, theft, or destruction. I didn't even witness any. I maintain I did not break the law on January 6th. I stood outside the building for 8 minutes shooting a video. But because of who I am and what I do, which is the founder of the Walk Away movement, I believe that they thought that by arresting me, they were going to find a treasure trove of information. I mean, it's important to remember, yes, these people are insane, yes, these people are corrupt, but they truly believe oftentimes the ridiculous stories that they themselves make up. And so by arresting me and charging me with all of these things, they were able to come into my apartment, take my computer, my hard drives, my thumb drives, my phone, go through my emails, go through all of my stuff. And then it was a condition for every person who was charged with January 6th, if you were going to take a plea deal, which again, I was stacked with felony charges, I knew I was going to take a misdemeanor plea deal. You have to sit down and interview with the government to be able to get a plea deal. So I sat down and interviewed with the government, and my entire interview was them. They had a list of names of conservative activists and personalities, and it was just the most ridiculous questions. How do you know this person? What do they do? Are you friends with this person? Or are you just acquaintances with this person? I'm sure your name was probably on the list. I don't really remember anymore. It was 4 years ago, but it was absolutely.
Oh, my name is on a lot of lists.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt. But yeah, no, I mean, it was absolutely.
No, actually, I could just tell you that I know that my name was on a number of lists when people were in those situations because I was definitely someone they were looking at for J6.
Yeah. Well, it was anybody who questioned the 2020 election. It was anybody who was, leading a powerful and influential movement. It was anybody who was doing influential activism work. Those are the people that were absolutely at the top of their hit list. And, by coming after me, I believe that they thought that they were going to get a treasure trove of information. Of course, there wasn't any because there was no plan to attack the Capitol. There was no plan to try to overthrow the government. But by being arrested for January 6th, they also used this as an excuse to permanently ban the walkaway campaign from social media and to ban us from banks and payment processors and email services and things like that. But to that point, I actually just won a legal battle against Facebook. So we're actually getting the walkaway campaign back on Facebook. So,
oh, congratulations! That's huge. That's huge, and I know that Robbie Starbuck is over there, and hopefully, hopefully able to do some good for conservatives who have been so wrongly treated by these platforms. I know that Charlie, when he was still with us, that one of the and people obviously saw this, but one of the things that he was trying to do was engage with Mark Zuckerberg directly and talk about that and say, look, okay, you're here at the inauguration when Trump got inaugurated, and you're here and you put some money in, fine, but when are you going to start bringing people back that you have banned? And that's something that Charlie even took up, obviously for Turning Point, but also just for everybody else too.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear that because we do need to be doing a lot more. I think at this point, when President Trump got reelected and we saw a lot of the big tech giants there at the inauguration, and I like seeing that there could potentially be a change in the culture and that, more of an embrace of conservatives being able to feel free on social media. But to your point, there's still an enormous amount of people who never recovered their accounts, who never should have been taken off the platform in the first place. And we should live in a country where we're allowed to challenge ideas, ask questions, particularly like with what was happening in 2020 with COVID, vaccines, and medication. These are conversations Americans should be allowed to have in a free country.
No, it's as simple as that. And so, which by the way, that was the entire and has always been your entire message to say, I do a show that's, predominantly for conservatives, but you weren't talking to conservatives. You were talking to people who are liberals, who are leftists, who are members of the Democrat Party to say, hey, I was one of you and I kind of woke up and let's have a conversation about whether or not this stuff is working. That's always what you've been about. So what did they do? They shut down your ability to talk to those people because you were so effective.